ain't really been in the mood for fake news. Are you a ock or a op? Can't choose, you fake too. We're Hakadesh, my force field like can't bruise. The most high, put my feet on the gas, I can't cruise. Praise the most high, feet on the grass, I can't lose. Stick to the plan like we building our house. Now make room. You ain't never seen me in this color like Beirut. People acting like repenting is something they can't do. Are you dumb or not? People choosing hell over heaven, but they know it high. Of course, you can find me in the present like I know the spot. He gave me these words, what a blessing. I'ma pour it out. People seeing water where my breath is. Yeah, I flow a lot. Holy Spirit shining in the dark like you control the tide. People out here thinking it's a game, but you control the pride. If you thinking what I'm saying is lame, I can't socialize for now, and I'm just gonna stay in my lane like I'm motorized. What you thought? I should dumb it down to maintain. You going off, the devil turning up, so I am too. No going soft. Every scripture in that Bible a sword. This is a war. What you thought? An Naviel gon' help you see clear, just like the frost. The Most High speaks, but they don't fear him. When he talk, you don't want to hear them words, don't know you. So depart, repent. Yeah.
Do good in thy good pleasure, O Zion. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Oh, Father, hear me. Forgive me. And purge me from my sins and iniquities. Hallelujah. Oh, Father, we praise you. Elohim. In the last days, thy sons and daughters shall prophesy and call upon the name Yod-He, Wad-He. Humble, let's meditate. And take, cry aloud and spare not. Let's get it.
I'm watching that clock like we in the fourth quarter. Messiah is coming. It's almost the hour. We roll with 144,000. He blessed the elect. Yeah, he's showing his power. And I've been fasting, so that mean I'm hungry. So that mean the demons I have to devour. Reading Ephesians, I don't fight with flesh and blood. I fight with principality and power. Please tell the evil, don't challenge me. My name is humble. I gotta be, I'm a descendant from the top of Benjamin. Don't wait to wolf up inside of me, Heaven to hell, bottom or top. I pick the top like a lottery, Get it? Lottery top pick. I pick the top like a lottery, Forget it. Israelite, yeah, my squad is the biggest. His nationality is not a religion. Pharisees trying to catch you slipping. They watch you like a museum exhibit. I don't have to fake the laws, I live it. You are living the facade, I get it. And you don't believe in God, you ignorant. Visionary, don't fit your description, I'm gone.
Yod-He, Wad-He, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob.
Yod-He, Wad-He. Humble, let's meditate. And take, cry aloud and spare not. Let's get it.
Hello, everyone. And shalom to those out there. My brother Jose, how are we doing tonight? Shalom to you.
Shalom, sir. Doing great. Well rested. What about you, sir?
Doing good. As you guys know, tonight's subject, what we're going to get into, if you haven't noticed, I've got a new camera so you guys can see my ugly mug a little bit better. Tonight we're going to get into Nebuchadnezzar's dream, going into Daniel's prophecy. And this is to set the floor. Some of you guys who are more knowledgeable about the Bible are going to be familiar with this already. But this is to set the stage for us going into the book of Revelations. And so you need to understand and have Daniel down pat and completely understand it, because it's going to pay you dividends later on understanding Revelations. Would you agree, Jose?
Yep. A lot of prophecies in Daniel pay off later in Revelation.
Okay, so with that said, let's go on ahead and salute us in, give honor to the Heavenly Father, sir.
Kol Hala Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai. That is all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Shalom, everybody. Welcome.
Yes, this is a class that I've been looking forward to doing, even though I forget sometimes which direction I'm going in. But I know this is something that I do enjoy talking about this subject. I did a video on it. Maybe a year. How old was that video? Which I did. I don't even remember how long ago I did it. Maybe about 2 years ago. A year ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. And I said, it was called Who is Mystery Babylon? And in there, I bounced around and I touched on the book of Daniel. Daniel, what is it, 7 and 2? Daniel 7, and then let's see what was it 1, 2? Well, I guess you can kind of touch on 1 kind of short, but 2, 7, and then dabble a little bit of 8. But all of those prophecies tie into what John is talking about in Revelation. So without further ado, let's go on ahead and get started. So I guess I'll paraphrase for time's sake. The first chapter is talking about when they started to go in and take captives out of Babylon. And when, in particular, they wanted to get certain captives that had certain skills and abilities. So I say that because a lot of people, when they think of the Babylonian captivity, they think of Daniel and the 3 other captives which were with him, and they don't focus on the fact that there were a lot more Israelite captives there. They were just very high up in status, and therefore they were the ones which were focused on. No different than if you were looking at, say, a Michael Jordan, a Jay-Z, any of those people who are kind of high profile. Yeah, they might be wealthy and they might be, I'm not saying that they're righteous. Don't get me wrong there. I'm just talking about their status and what status they're in, what they're still in the system, still beneath, the powers that be. So that said, let's go ahead and get started with Daniel 2, sir.
From the top?
Yeah, from the top. Actually, hold on a second. Let me get this on the screen. Yeah, I had to get used to this new setup, so you guys bear with me just a little bit. So, hold on a sec. Almost there. Whoa, what translation is this? Let's go with KJV Gateway. And I don't know why it's, like I said, getting used to this new setup, so just bear with me a little bit. All right, so let me put it on the screen. That way you guys can follow along. Hopefully those at home have their Bibles handy and they can go into this also and follow it. We are reading out of the KJV. So I am ready when you are, sir.
Book of Daniel, chapter 2 and verse 1. And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled. And
wait a minute. Sorry, I'm in Daniel 1. Sorry. And I was like, why is this not looking right? 2, there we go. So, all right, now let's continue.
All right. Verse 2. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing is gone from me. If ye will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof.
Okay, stop right there. And so I wanted him to at least so we can stop on this verse here, so that we can get in an understanding of what's going on here. You know, he's bringing all his soothsayers and magicians, all these people to try to figure out this dream, and he's letting them know how dire the consequences are if they do not get this correct. If you don't get this correct, you're basically going to be murdered. And your houses, and when that says house, that's not just talking about a physical house. Houses also denotes families. So this is literally talking about a possible, an extermination of their families and of their houses, all of their resources being made to a dunghill. Dunghill is crap. So to nothing. Or if you do well, you'll be rewarded, with great honor. And when they're talking about great honor, they're going to talk about a lot of gifts, wealth, things like that. So more than likely even titles and stuff like that. You guys have seen like some of these night shows when they get kingships and lands, and that's basically this kind of situation. So let's continue.
Verse 7. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that you would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof.
All right, so hold on, let's stop. So I am going to let Jose read a lot of this stuff more through, because some of this stuff is going to be more plain. But on certain points that I want to emphasize, I will stop and interject there. Right here, basically, he's telling them, like, that way I know that you're not trying to pull the wool over my eyes. You're not trying to play games with me. I want you to tell me what the dream is. So, and then we can go into the interpretations. But I want to know that if you even can tell what dream I'm dreaming, and that you're not just making up stuff, to please me. So continue.
Verse 10. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician, or astrologer, or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was
now. Hold on. Now I wanted to stop it. The reason why he was going to go get Daniel also, and it says, and the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. The reason why, even though Daniel was not asked in the first place to come up with this dream or prophecy, is because he got to the point, he said, I've already asked my top people, and if they don't know it, then any of you magicians, Chaldeans, sorcerers, and even you so-called wise men, which people who were of faith, and cited that the Heavenly Father was speaking to them and gave them prophecies and ways to be guided, even if that's just talking about matters of faith and what you should be doing. We're looked at as so-called wise men. And so therefore, this is why he's like, yeah, go round them up too. I'm going to go get everybody. And so continue.
Okay. Then verse 14. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercies of the God of heaven concerning the secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter.
And so now at this point, the Heavenly Father, now that he was able to tell the king, come on, Nebuchadnezzar, just give me some time. I mean, you haven't even asked me. You're about to kill me and my brothers, and we don't even know what this is about. Just give us a little bit of time. We'll pray on it, and then we will get back to you. And we promise that we'll be able to give you the answers that you seek. And so that's what happened. And so because he's getting this revelation from the Most High, he's honoring and saying, thank you, Father. He's not putting himself out there boastfully and pridefully. He is humbling himself, saying that this is not of me. This is of the Father which created me. So therefore, this is why he's giving so much reverence to the Father, which we should do. So go ahead and continue.
Verse 24. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judea. I will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar.
Which here, let me from Daniel 1, when they were brought in, Daniel, of course, is his Hebrew name, but he was given the name Belteshazzar. That's why you hear names like Meshach and Abednego, and I'm forgetting the other one right now. These are the Babylonian names that we talked about when he was talking about Hananiah and apologies. There we go. Mishael, Azariah, Hananiah, and Daniel. Those are all their Hebrew names, but they were all giving Babylonian names when they were taken into captivity. So I think that's also an important thing for us to keep in mind. Even back then, when they were taking people into captivity, when they were taking the Israelites into captivity, they were changing their names. And that's a way to separate people from that identity. Now, in the first couple of years, you might not separate somebody from their identity, but let that go a couple of generations and people start forgetting who they are. All right, where are you at? 24, 25?
No, 25.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was in 26.
26? Okay, that's right.
Verse 26. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any reason, but I have
Any wisdom?
any wisdom, that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold.
Let's stop right there. So this first part, he's literally giving him what the dream is first. Because the king asked him, he's like, "Yo, I want to know what the dream is. That way, I can know that you're not giving me the runaround, that you're not just making something up." And here, he's been given the prophecy to be able to know what the dream is. So let's continue on.
Verse 32. This image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given unto thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all.
All right, so let's stop right there. So he gave him a pair. He gave him what he saw in the dream. Now, the reason why I'm not going to just jump in there every 5 minutes, because I do want you guys to be able to just hear the text plainly, especially for those who are not familiar with this. This is a main purpose. It's important to understand this part before we get on to some of these other parts. I know some of you guys are going to be more experienced at understanding this stuff, but that's the whole point. I know that some of this might be simple to some of y'all, but the Bible will explain the Bible if you will be patient enough and ask and pray for the answers to understand it. So now he's about to get into, he's already described what it was. It is a statue made of 4 different kind of metals: a head of gold, chest of silver, legs of bronze or brass, depending on your interpretation. What it says, more than likely, it definitely would have been bronze. Legs of iron, and then it talks about 10 toes. And that stone, a stone made without hands, will destroy that statue and grow into a mighty mountain. And so we'll keep going or whatever. And for instance, keep those things in mind. A stone made without hand is going to destroy all of these, destroy this whole statue and grow into a mighty mountain. Keep in mind what mountain, for those who know where we're going with this, you guys know what a mountain is in the Bible, but we'll continue and let scripture explain it, because this is pretty plain. So we're not gonna, I don't feel the need to break down every little bit of this. Okay, let's continue.
So, the ending of verse 38. Thou art this head of gold, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is, that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
All right, so we read through the whole Daniel 2, the whole chapter, and it's a longer chapter, but I felt it was important to just lay that and establish what's going on here. So as you guys can see, it was pretty much plain what happened here. He was able to give this prophecy. Now, the reason why this is significant, which I don't know if people really think about, this is this period of time that we're talking about. We're literally talking about easily what from Daniel's time up to modern day. So I mean, we're talking about what would you say, Jose? What, 3,000 to 4,000 years of prophecy, all summed into this one chapter. That's why it's very important to understand what's going on here. Now, those can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm a little off on the timeline. But if you think about it, this is going into. In fact, let's look it up real quick. Time of Daniel. The given Bible timeline that they say is that this was roughly between 500. Daniel's lifetime was 538 BC to 620. He was carried off to Babylon in 605 BC by Nebuchadnezzar. And so I guess this is saying that he was about 15 when he was taken to Babylon. So we would have to say that this time period is roughly about about 590 BC. So I guess I'll correct let's see, what this is probably about, what, 2,600 years. So a little under 3,000 years. But this is literally talking about easily 2,500 years that was summed up in that one chapter. Anything you want to add, Jose?
Yeah, I think. Did you want to revisit Daniel 1, like for any reason, or no?
No, I mean Daniel 1 basically is just going into their captivity, and so
okay. So I wanted to jump around a little bit, like ask for the reason why.
Sure, if you want to add something, go ahead.
Why the Most High decided to grant favor unto Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to bounce around chapter 1 for the sake of time. Okay. Daniel 1 and 3. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. So now among these were of the children of Judea, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So I'm skipping down to verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So Daniel had, under captivity, he was going to be subjected to the dietary laws of Babylon, but he wanted to resist that as much as he could. And so it was only at that point where he wanted to stick to God, the Most High's dietary laws. And now we have verse 9. Now God had brought...
Which I'll add in there. Which basically what that's saying is that the meats of Babylon, we're talking about unclean meats. You know, stuff that would be illegal under the Levitical law. So that's what that's going on when it's talking about the meats of Babylon.
Verse 9. Now God had brought Daniel unto favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I feared my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sorts? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Skipping out of verse 12. Daniel says, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee 10 days, and let them give us pulse, which would be plants and herbs, and beans and lentils, like to eat, and water to drink. Verse 14. So he consented to them in this manner, and proved them 10 days. Verse 15. At the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Verse 17. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Verse 20. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus. So, point being, sticking to the dietary laws is what grants you wisdom and favor before the Most High.
Well, sticking to the laws in general, and especially the dietary laws. And so, more than likely, I would assert, and this is an assertion, that if the Israelites were not keeping the dietary laws, these other Israelites, because when it's talking about these other people that it's going into. It's not talking about other captives in general, even though they did subjugate a bunch of different towns and cities. This is talking specifically about the Israelites who were under the Mosaic law and Mosaic covenant. And so obviously for us, for the Israelites to have went into captivity, they obviously were not keeping to a lot of these things before in the first place overall. So I would throw that in there also with part of the problems in the first place. But this handful who were still righteous, they had to go through their form of captivity with the rest of the nation as a whole. So for anybody who looks at it as, oh, this is just an individual thing, no, this is dealt with as a nation. Those four were still looked at as keeping to the laws and still looked at favorably from Yahweh, but they still were in captivity with the rest of their brothers. Even though they were living better, they still were in captivity. So I just wanted to establish that, because I hear a lot of times when Christians will go into, especially when it gets into the Persian captivity, they start talking about, well, you know, they were given the ability to go back and build their temple. Yeah, but if you're somebody's cupbearer, you're still beneath them. And if you're beneath another nation, that is a form of captivity and a curse. So let's see. I wanted to skip to what, 7?
Mm-hmm.
And just like this one, for time's sake, so we can get as much scripture out there. Apologies. As much scripture as possible out there. I'm not gonna interject very much. Just like this, I'm gonna let Jose kind of get mostly in, do his reading, and whenever you are ready, sir.
Book of Daniel, chapter 7 and 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the son of the matters.
Actually, hold on 1 second. I want you guys to pay attention to some of these key things in here, because the Bible does interpret itself. But if you're just reading it plain, and just, I know we read Daniel 7 and 2 pretty plain. We read or Jose read through Daniel 7 and 1, kind of plain for the most part, with little breakdowns in there. But for some of this stuff, I'll give you an example. Stuff like even right here in the second verse, when it talks about the winds of the heavens strode up upon the great sea, they're speaking parabolically here. But if you have patience and discernment and you pay attention to these different things, and when it talks about the great beast, all of these different things are starting to get into parables, and all of this is still going into and explaining, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. But this is just giving it to you a little bit, I would say, a little bit more allegorically, which can kind of trip people up. And this is going to be important, because as we start getting into the book of Revelations, you're going to need to be able to understand when it's speaking plainly and when it's getting into speaking in dark sayings or in parables. So let's continue. Or start at 2 again and keep going. And we'll be able to, if you guys don't catch them, I'll go into some of these different points. I don't know if anybody's in the chat or not. If you're in the chat and you have questions, ask, of course. But if not, once we get towards the end of this, then I'll go through and I'll break down some of this stuff.
Verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man. And a man's heart was given to it. And behold another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
All right, now let's stop there. Now, the statue that he talked about, it talked about 4 different metals, 4 different kingdoms. He already explained that the head that was gold, that was Nebuchadnezzar. That was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom of Babylon. And right here, what he's doing is it's giving more detail, because he gave the king, okay, these are different kingdoms. That this kingdom's going to be lesser than yours, lesser than this. But what he did not give him is this, which gives more clues and indication to which kingdoms that these are after Babylon. That's the part which was held back. So let's stop right there. I'm gonna throw a visual aid in real quick. So just to go along with what we said, we talked about Babylon, right? And we talked about get back to that one scripture. Show something.
Verse 4.
Yeah, verse 4.
Let me know when you got it pulled up, so then I'll start reading and then you can show it.
Okay. So I'm trying to see if I can find the actual. There we go. That'll work. So I'm going to drop that down real quick, and I'm going to bring up an image that I want you to read. I'm going to bring up an image while you read. Here we go.
Daniel 7 and verse 4. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
And so what this is obviously clear, you see the lion with the wings, and this was talking about, he already said that the gold head was Babylon, showing you that he's talking about the same thing here. This is how he knows for a fact that the gold head was Babylon. And the wings that are plucked up from it. And it said it stood up like a man and was given heart. So let's continue. Hold on a second. Let me put that back up, because I already know you're going to have a precept for me. Right?
No.
Don't worry. You read, and after you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Verse 5. And behold another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Okay, hold there. Back, actually. Let's do that again. Let's see. Now, for those who followed history, it said a kingdom that was going to rise up after. Do you guys know which kingdom that was that rose up after it? Well, for somebody like me, before I really dug into this in the Bible, I knew this from secular history. The empire that took down the Babylonian Empire was the Achaemenid, or Achaemenid, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm not quite sure. What was it? Yeah, the Achaemenian Empire. Persia. And they even have it right here. The fall of Babylon. Immediately after Darius seized Persia, Babylonia briefly recovered its independence under a native ruler who took the name Nebuchadnezzar III. Now, that's not the same Nebuchadnezzar, of course, but he took his name weirdly from the king which they had just defeated. Some people even refer to it as the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Now, I want to see if we have, take it back and see if we have a map. Right here, it's showing you the Persian Empire, how massive it was and how it took over. And eventually it did take over this whole entire area, going all the way over to as far away as Egypt. And what were you talking about those the three ribs? Let's see. See if that one's clear enough to see. Oh, okay, yeah, that one is pretty clear. Babylonia, you had
And Egypt.
Huh?
So the three ribs were, if I remember correctly, the three ribs are supposed to symbolize the territories that the Persians conquered.
Yeah, they were the three major territories that were completely destroyed and that they rebuilt. One being the main city. Main city of Babylon. Another one was Mesopotamia. And the third one was Nineveh. Those were completely destroyed and then rebuilt. Well, more of it was destroyed and rebuilt, but those were three major cities at the time. So we can drop that and put, no, not that one. Let's put Daniel back on the screen. And so, oh, I didn't share. All right, so. Oh, yeah. Oh, it was one other thing that I wanted to show you all. I'll find it. Now, let me show you guys something interesting.
Did you want me to go to First Maccabees?
Yes, that's where I wanted to go, sir.
Okay. Got it.
I was trying to tip it without saying it.
Got it.
But what did it say that second beast was?
Verse 5. Daniel 7 and 5. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Medo-Persian bear right here. Iran and Iraq have bears, brown bears. The only area really that's in that whole area that's known for bears. Not saying that there can't be bears in those areas, but this area is known for bears. Let's see here. Little bear family, Iranian bear. And then even over here, look at the depiction. A bear sitting on Persia. Yeah, because everybody think of the Persian cats. No, bears are just as massive and prevalent in that area. So there's the bear. So we just had the griffin, and we have the bear taken over from the griffin. All right, what do you have, sir?
Well, you want to read, well, you want me to get verse 6, and then you'll pull it up, and then I'll go to First Maccabees?
All right, let me put that back on the screen. All right. And I guess I can read this one while you get the next one ready. Verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
So this is First Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 1. And it happened, after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chisholm, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, had made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things,
and I was going to throw in there, like right here, this is telling you in the Bible now. I know most of the people who secular history. You guys heard of a movie called 300? Remember what was happening there? You had the kings of Persia, which were coming to Xerxes, where he was coming to fight against the Greeks. Now, of course, the movie is not quite accurate. We can go into that another time, but the point still stands. What we're going to do. So continue, sir.
verse 5. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
So when we go back to, I'll hold this one real quick and put that back on the screen. What we just read in Daniel, right here. And after this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. The reason why it's referencing a leopard is one of the animals that has one of the fastest accelerations. This is literally one of the fastest that the known world was conquered. Under Alexander, it was the fastest the known world was conquered. That's why they're referencing the Greek Empire to a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Now, let's go down and show you guys this real quick. Dominion, 4 heads, right? Right here, we have the 4 kings. You had the Ptolemaic dynasty, Seleucid, Antiochus, and what was it? Cassander. I think it's Cassander in the Bible, but here's having it in the Greeks, Cassandros, which is showing it as 2, but it was 1 kingdom. In fact, let's click on this one and I'll show you. That's clear. No, it's not very clear. Oh, I guess it cleared up there. No, that's not it though. Hellenistic kingdoms, which if you can see these areas, Egypt was the Ptolemaic. Seleucids, that's going into areas of Turkey and into India. This area is Phrygia, which Phrygia is, let's see, Phrygia would be, that area between Turkey, going over closer toward, well, it would be, I guess basically these would be 2 different parts of Greece in a sense. Well, Greece, and then what would be kind of getting closer to what we call like the Baltics in modern day. Because right in this area, this is where you have like Bosnia and Kosovo and those different areas like that. Macedonia is like right in this area, I believe. But what happened with these different kings? They start warring against each other. As they warred against each other, eventually took each other out, making it easier for that next empire. So let's go ahead and read back into Daniel 7 what it is talking about here.
Dang, I wanted to find some kind of mural or painting that was official looking that discussed how or depicted how Alexander had often worn a Greek leopard pelts on his horse when he rode into battle.
I'm trying to remember. I did used to know where that was, because there was depictions of him like that, which that's what was described, especially in a lot of historical texts. But I don't know exactly where it is. Hold on a sec. Dropping stuff over here. All right. So whenever did you want me to continue or you?
No, I can go on with 7.
Okay, cool.
Daniel 7 and verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
Now stop there. The 10 horns. Remember how we were talking about the 10 toes before? This is the same thing that it's talking about from that statue. And if you guys know history, if you already know the Babylonians were taken out by the Medo-Persian Empire, which Medes and Persians were equal at first, and then eventually the Persian Empire started to rise in power as the Medes started to decrease in power, and it just became all amassed into the Persian Empire. The Persians were eventually defeated and subdued by the Greeks. The Greeks, as they descended after Alexander died, it went to his 4 generals. They had their 4 kingdoms, and through their infighting back and forth and wanting to consolidate the kingdom how Alexander had it, they eventually laid themselves open to the next successor of them. And you guys will hear sometimes the Greco-Roman Empire, Greece and Rome. It started being a little mix of that, and then eventually that 4th beast became the Roman Empire. And that those 10 toes, which are talked about in there, being diverse nations, half strong, half weak, as it talked about the iron mixed with the miry clay. It's the same thing here. These horns. Some of these horns would be weak. Some of these horns would be strong. And if you understand, when you start talking about horns, horns are powers. There's something also that I wanted to jump back to, in which there's scriptures which we can go into this to explain, but where they said Daniel 7:2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in the night in vision by night, and beheld the 4 winds of heaven. Winds, a lot of times, it's talking about wars. And I'm trying to remember. I got my notes here. I dug this up because I'm definitely not going to remember this off the top of my head. Where was that? Go to Jeremiah 49 and 36.
All right. This is 49, 36.
Mm-hmm.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 49 and verse 36. And upon Elam will I bring the 4 winds from the 4 quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all those winds. And there shall be no nation where the outcasts of Elam shall not come. For I will cause...
Yeah, I'll start. Continue.
For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and before them that seek their life. And I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith the Lord. And I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam, and will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord.
Now, I brought that up for the point of it's letting you know, we're talking about he's going to scatter him with his winds, but what you hear in there is the winds are doing a lot of violence, letting you know that winds is the sword being brought to them in violence and captivity and all those different things. That's what happens in war. The next one was what, 17 and 17, Revelation 17 and 15.
This is Revelation.
And so you guys will know what I'm breaking down. And behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. What is the great sea? Go ahead and read, sir.
That was 17 and what?
15.
Okay, Revelation 17 and 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled.
So yeah, I was showing you there how it's telling you that the waters in the Great Sea is doing all of these things. So when people think that most of this stuff is being just done through the Most High, it is being done through the Most High. But the Most High enacts his stuff through practical matters, through people. So he puts the Spirit goes out, and it incites these people to war. And so, and therefore, they are fulfilling the Lord's will. And then the last one that I wanted you to bring up.
I got a precept for that one.
Okay.
For that point. This is Proverbs 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will.
Yep.
All right.
And then I definitely want to do this last one here because a lot of people get confused about when it starts talking about beasts, and they get all confused. Well, what are you sure that what does this beast part mean? Well, we already know that this beast is this Daniel 7 is paralleling what's happening in Daniel 2. And so obviously, if he already told us they're kingdoms, we know that these have to be kingdoms that it's talking about, these different beasts. So let's hop back over there. I will read that, and I want you to get, actually, you don't have to get anything. I could just scroll down. So keep this in mind. And the four great beasts came up from the sea. 4 great beasts came up from the sea, from the people. So let's skip down. 17, I believe. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. Kings, meaning their kingdoms. So let's go back up there and read that first part. And in fact, instead of beast, instead of winds, let's go ahead and substitute in for winds, wars, for great sea, great multitude of people. And then for beasts, kingdoms. So let's start at 2. Or I can do it if that's confusing.
Where did you want me to start? Daniel 7?
At 2.
All right. Daniel 7 and verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea.
Oh, hold on. I'll do it because I wanted to supplement this in so it can help cement this in people's mind. Daniel 2, Daniel 7 and 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night and beheld the 4 wars out of heaven strove upon a great multitude of people. And 4 great kingdoms came up from the people, diverse from one another. Now, when you translate it and you use how the Bible is giving you words to translate this, now this makes a little bit more sense. It should, I believe. We already know that. So when you're seeing beast and it's talking and it's not making sense, and you know it's not literally talking about an animal, it's talking about a kingdom. When it's talking about winds and then it starts talking about violence after, it is talking about war. when it's talking about sea, and it's not talking about some kind of ship or somebody swimming. It is talking about a multitude of people. So let's, I think we left off right after after going into the fourth beast, right? Yes. So continue with 8.
Daniel 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things.
All right, now stop there. Now, we've already talked about, and just like it said in Daniel 2, that those 10 toes are coming out of that fourth kingdom. Just like we've already established, this beast has these 10 horns, these 10 powers that come out. Part are strong, part are weak. Remember that from 2? It's letting you know these are 10 kingdoms. Now, all you have to do is think about which kingdoms came out of the Roman Empire. Well, once you realize, okay, which ones came out of the Roman Empire, then it starts to make more sense. And it says, I considered the horns, and beheld, there came up among them a little horn. That little horn, before whom there were 3 of the 4 horns plucked out by the root, and beheld, in this horn were eyes, eyes like the eyes of a man, and mouth, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, come on, common sense. Which nation came out of the Roman Empire, which was a little horn? Little horn would signify that it obviously has a shorter span. That little horn, which obviously is definitely not a weaker horn, it would be the United States, because the United States time as a nation is shorter than all these other nations. All these other nations have a much longer history. Therefore, it's the little horn. So how did the United States become this powerhouse that it was? Well, there were 3 other horns, which were the ones who so-called discovered or colonized these lands. That would be the French, that would be the Spanish, and that would be the British. If you think about some of the major wars that happened here, you had the French Indian War? That was the United States teaming up with Native American. Well, before it was the United States, that was colonialists teaming up and fighting against the French. You had that one. You had the American Revolutionary War, where you had the colonialists pushing out Great Britain. And you also had the Spanish-American War, where you had the United States pushing out Spain. So let's go back and read. Let's see, what was that? We can read 8 again. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I said this in the original video that I did, but America, even in that time, came up with what was called the Monroe Doctrine. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, I was about to say Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah, they had the Monroe Doctrine, and they had Manifest Destiny. That they were going to force Christianity on everybody, and the Monroe Doctrine saying, even though we barely have a military, we don't even really have a standing military, we're going to tell every other nation that they can't come into our hemisphere. That not only do we have the United States, we have all of the whole Americas, from north to central to the Caribbean to the south. It's all ours. In my mind, that's speaking very, very great things. So continue with 9, sir.
Daniel 7 and 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool.
Now, I wanted to stop that because you're going to need to remember this when we get into Revelation 1. Here, as you can see, it's telling you his garments were white as snow, and his hair is like the pure wool. Now, I know, I guess go ahead and get Revelation 1 and 13. Because people here play this game. Oh, well, when it says white as snow, his hairs are white as snow. And his hair is like wool. Well, wool is the color. Well, wool is a bunch of different colors. When you're saying wool, that does not denote a color. That's denoting a texture. So, like it just said here, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did see the Most High, whose garments were white as snow, telling his clothing. So that tells you he's sitting up there with clothes on. That means he has a body. And the hair of his head is like the pure wool. And his thrones were like a fiery flame, and his wheels a burning fire. And we'll go into that in a second. That's not as important as that part that I just referenced there. But let's read Revelations 1 and 13.
Revelation 1 and 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as a sound of many waters.
So it's letting you know he have a loud voice. It's also his throne was like the fiery flame. It's referencing a lot of things here because it's showing you that the Son is similar to the Father. They have the same characteristics. That's why he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Letting you know the Father has pure wool hair. He has pure wool hair, and both have hair white as snow. And normally when we see a person with white hair, white as snow, they're what? Older, right? Normally signified as white hair signifies wisdom, correct? And then
just in the name alone, the Ancient of Days. Like he has been ancient since the concept of days ever existed.
Exactly. And if his son was there doing the creation along with him, he would be pretty old also, right? And then one more I want you to pull up just to pair with all this. Daniel 10 and 6. Because I want to stay at this spot. That's where I'm not going to pull it up.
Book of Daniel, chapter 10 and verse 6. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, no, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was going to continue to verse 7, but if you wanted me to stop, then.
Well, you can keep on.
And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me. For my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength.
Yeah, sometimes I just keep it on that because I don't want people to get too confused.
Oh, you wanted me to keep going? Okay. Yet heard I the voice of his words. And when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. And behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright. For unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me,
That's good. Yeah, we don't want to get it too. We don't divert too far away. Yeah, let's get back to. Oh, okay. So continue with 10. Oh, what I was gonna say here, his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. When you see something that's burning in fire, it's normally going to be darker. That's one thing I would say. But another thing is this fire, when it talked about it talked about thunder and lightning in the face. That's wisdom, which from 10 and 6. And this fiery flame is a lot of times fire is referencing to passion or fury or anger. So, and then there's also his wheels that kind of goes back to the scripture where it's talking about the wheels within wheels. I believe that's Ezekiel 4, which is referencing heavenly vehicles. So more than likely, his throne that he sits on moves also.
Can I continue with verse 10?
Yes, continue with verse 10.
Daniel 7 and 10. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened.
And so I want to stop this when he says the judgment was set and the books were open. This is what you're going to see a parallel when we get into Revelations and it starts talking about opening up the seals. Now, in the book of Daniel, it condenses a lot of information. But it's important to kind of get this because as it goes into more and more parables and gets deeper and deeper, it starts explaining things out more and more. So, sorry, continue.
Verse 11. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Now,
this right here, I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, and this is talking about that little horn, which you can tell that little horn, aka Mystery Babylon, aka America. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed. And when it talks about the great city being destroyed, I believe that's Revelation 18. His body destroyed and given to the burning flames. It talks about that city will be destroyed in the course of an hour, and it talks about burning the great whore. This is the same thing it's talking about in Revelations. John is mirroring what Daniel was saying, but he's giving more prophecy in more detail. So continue.
As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
Hold that. As concerned the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. They had their rulership taken away. Which those other kingdoms, they had, this is referencing the final days, but they've already saw that diminishment. None of them have reached the level of the little horn, But in this time, they're going to have, after that little horn has been destroyed, these nations are going to lose their dominion, meaning being subjugated, and yet their lives will prolong for a season. They're going to be prolonged for a time. And continue, because right here, how we were just talking about Revelations 1 and 13, this is now starting to connect some of these things together. Continue.
Verse 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed.
Okay, stop there. Now let's get back up there. When it says in 13, I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. This is Yahushua coming back, or Christ for Christians, coming back with the host of heavens with him. And it's talking about with the clouds of heaven. We will call these angelic vehicles, or some of you guys might call them so-called UFO, or what is it, AFP or something like that. I don't know, aerial flying phenomenon. I don't know these terms, whatever. I'm used to the back of the old school when UFOs. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Well, when you're in Revelations, it's a part where it's talking about that the Lamb coming to open the book. And it already talked about the book being open before. That's going to be opening the seals of the things which are going to lead into the last days. Now it skips through I'm not going to say it skips, but it paraphrases all of this, and it surmises all of these things that happen over a long period of time into a very short, condensed time. Within this paragraph to the next paragraph is a huge span of time. Well, I won't say a huge span of time, but it's definitely a span of time that's going on here. Well, I mean, I don't mean 13 to 14, but a lot of this stuff that it's talking about from, I want to say, easily from 8 to when we're talking about what 13. That's only what 8 to 13 is what 5 scriptures.
Yeah.
In 5 scriptures, we're literally talking about, let's see, let me go back real quick. In 5 scriptures, we're talking about basically up to modern day now. We're talking about a little over 200 years right here within 5 paragraphs. So you see what I mean when I say this is condensing a lot of stuff and kind of just hitting the bullet points and highlights. Let's see, 14, continue.
Verse 14. Well, actually, I read. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you read 13.
So 15. Actually, no, I read. I read.
Well, just reread 14.
Okay. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people and nations and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed.
All right, now hold there, and that's hearkening back to Daniel 2 again when it talks about that stone that is cut without hands, and that mountain that's growing out of it that will be everlasting. This is what it's echoing right here. So continue.
Verse 15. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things.
All right, hold there. And this goes back to what you were just reading in Daniel 10. I think that was what, about 10 and 8. This is when it talks about that Daniel stood up and he was trembling. This ties right there to that part.
Verse 17. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamp the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them.
Stop there. It says that same horn that made war with the saints. That means that this kingdom is a kingdom which oppressed the Israelites. This is what this is talking about. And it made war with them. And that fourth beast, it did that in its first iteration. It did that in its second iteration. It did that, because that fourth beast is all coming out of the Roman Empire. And so before it was part of that Roman Empire, then it became 10 that descended down into this little horn. And it still continued this war going all the way back from the days of ancient Rome and Greece. Or the so-called Greco-Roman period all the way up until the revised Roman Empire, which we're kind of living in with NATO and EU. I continue.
Verse 22. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out.
But hold on, let's break it down, because I don't want to just read through and people not be following what we're talking about here. But skipping back up to 23, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread on it and break it down into pieces. That fourth kingdom, the reason why it is diverse, then and people will say, well, what's the difference between Greece and Rome? Well, the difference is Greece went away and then came back, then went away and then came back, and it just keep remaking itself in different forms and continued on even outside the landmass without the same name, without the same language, all of those different things. It continued itself on no matter what. And the 10 horns out of these kingdoms are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. Out of those 10 kings came that one king, basically, or president, which became America. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Those 3 kings we talked about, Spain, England, France. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall swear and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And think to, oh, sorry, that's right. You haven't read this part yet. Continue.
verse 25.
25.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall
Which
wear out,
America is one of the most blasphemous nations.
and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And he shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
And so that's letting you know that this great nation, this great king, which president is still a king. This great nation is going to speak against the Most High, but is going to have power to change time, to change laws. If you think about it, the laws of America have gotten to the point where literally you have like, I got a story right now about a lot of the leaders in Africa talking about how the LGBTQ movement is being pushed on them in Africa and being forced upon them. That's how they're forcing their laws around the world. This nation would be able to do that because it's given this power for a time and dividing of time. Continue.
Verse 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
And this is talking about, but this nation will have a end. It will be destroyed in the end. Well, destroyed unto the end. So it's saying it's not going to continue after that. Continue.
Verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter.
Hold on. Pull up Isaiah 61 and what am I thinking? 8, 9?
Isaiah 61. Oh, Isaiah 61 and what did you want? 8?
I think 8. Read it. Let me see what that one.
Actually, you might want 7.
7. Okay.
Isaiah 61 and 7. For your shame you shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I, the Lord, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offerings. And I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. For he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations.
All right, stop there. I did want that, but I think I wanted you to start a little sooner. Let's remember.
Oh, you might have wanted to.
I think I might have. Let's see.
You might have wanted even 3. Or even 2.
No, I wanted you can start at 5. That's what I want. Just read 5 and 6 real quick. Because
Isaiah
that
61.
ties with I'm gonna go back to that ties with this part right here. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints, whose kingdom shall last forever. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is what I wanted. By the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion. No, that's not where I was looking. Yeah, well, that's what I wanted. But go ahead, read 5.
Isaiah 61 and 5. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves.
All right, and then now I'll go back to what it says here for 26. The judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it to the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints and the Most High, and whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. And right there, what it was going into in 61 and 5, and then all the way down to where'd you stop at? About 11.
For Isaiah?
Yeah, for Isaiah.
So I stopped at... Yeah, it was at 11.
Yeah. And it's giving you all the kingdoms and the everlasting salvation right here. All of that from 5 to 11 is all encompassed right here in 26 and 27. But let's hop back over here and finish out with the last verse, 28.
Verse 28. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me. But I kept the matter in my heart.
All right. Let's see. How are we doing on time?
2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it. So going ahead, and I wanted to skip into 8. I wanted to go into 8 a little bit. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'll try not to stop it too much because I think we broke down a lot of the information. Let me see. I guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go on ahead. Yeah.
From the top.
Yep.
Daniel 8 and Daniel chapter 8 and verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
I'll stop there. This ram that it's talking about is the so-called, to paraphrase it quickly, the power system of this earth. And that, what did it say, he-goat?
Mm-hmm.
That he-goat with that horn, that one powerful horn that rammed into him, destroyed him. That's the Messiah. And Jose, does it remind you of anything when you heard about him stamping him down and none could deliver out of his hand? That remind you of anything?
I'm drawing a blank.
Well, basically, that's a parable of the spiritual deity Satan being defeated, and basically overall the Most High sending his son to destroy and throw down that, just like it talks about in Revelation when it starts talking about and the what was it the false prophet and Satan and hell thrown into the lake of fire. It's all referencing to all these things here. Continue.
Verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them.
Sorry. I have to go back. I misspoke on that one. Misspoke. When it was talking about that, it was talking about that ram being cast down. This is talking about these kingdoms about to be demolished, going into the next kingdom. Sorry, I was thinking of another part. I'm right now I'm conflating Revelations. So apologies. Because right there, he said he was in Elam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Elam is, I don't remember exactly where. Elam is to the east of Babylon. So technically Elam would be close to modern day
India?
You could say India. I would say kind of straddling the border, India, Pakistan. But Elam was also in the territories of Persia at that time, because just like how Babylon took over the whole Levant, I mean, and they used Egypt as a vassal state. The same thing happened when Persia came over and took them over. They basically took over all the same lands and extended that out a little bit further. And it started getting closer. Yeah, I guess you could say Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan area. And then when Alexander's time period came, Alexander pushed further into India. And then when you had the Roman Empire basically took all those areas and then pushed further westward into Europe. And so with each one of these empires rising up, they took more and more land each time. Because remember, at the time of, well, all of these empires, including the Roman Empire, there was no knowledge of the so-called fourth part of the earth. And the fourth part of the earth, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is America. America would be the fourth part of the earth.
Because it's the fourth largest massive territory.
Yes, I mean there's literally books that the secular books that call America fourth part of the earth. Let's see if I can find one. But I'm pretty sure that there's. I remember seeing it. There's a fourth part of the earth. There we go. Let me put this on the screen. Present. All right. The fourth part of the world, sorry, refers to the somewhat mythical yet actual undiscovered lands after Asia, Europe, and Africa, described by the ancients, which we know now as America.
Wow.
And so, in this book right here, the fourth part of the world, the race to the ends, because they thought that you couldn't. Of course, there's the book over there. Fourth part of the world, and so they did not think that there was anything else. So the only known world was blanking Europe, Asia, and Africa. And so that also lends to the prophecy in what is that, Esdras, when it talks about that the 10 tribes went to a land that mankind never dwelt. Well, the only place that was considered a place which nobody ever dwelt is the so-called Americas. Makes sense? All right. Well, we're almost at our 2-hour time, right? Do you have any questions, anything you wanted to add, sir?
No, not really. I actually had looked up on Wikipedia, that list of countries and dependencies by area, and lo and behold, China and the U.S. are like tied for number 3 or 4.
What do you mean 3 or 4 on what?
Yeah, hang on. Let me share my screen for a sec. Talking about total area and land area. Yeah. China and the US are like either 3 or 4. One of those.
I was trying to. Remember, I was trying to remember the. Remember, I said when we were reading that part. I remember now. Where was it at? Losing my link. Did I close it out? Did I close it? We'll see. Put it back on the screen. Remember, I said that it is actually. And I was like, yeah, I misspoke. It's actually talking about the kingdom switching. I remember what it was now. The ram pushing. I saw the ram pushing westward. So the area that was westward would have been going towards Persia, because it's already talking about because it's talking about from Elam, right? We already established Elam would be roughly Afghanistan going into Pakistan, so westward would be Persia. And so that ram that it was talking about, that was let me just read it. Or is it, do I have it shared on the screen? And as I was considered, behold, he came out from the west on the face of the whole earth. That goat that came out would have been Greece, and touched not the ground, and the goat had notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had horns, which I've seen standing before the river, and ran to him with fury and his power. And that's talking about Greece taking out that ram. I think down further in here somewhere, I can find it. It says it somewhere in here. It's just been a while since I've read Daniel 8. Keep going. Oh, there we go. There it is. The ram which thou sawest having two horns were the kings of Media and Persia. So those two horns was Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, which that was showing from Babylon. He's seeing the next kingdom. He's seeing Persia, and they're being defeated by Greece. And then when it starts going into the, well, shoot, we're running out of time, but you get what I'm saying. It's going into that Persia, and then the next one that it starts talking about when, see if I can find it real quick and run through it. So right here, and great horn was broken, and it came four notable ones. There we go. And came up the four notable horns. Remember that we talked about how after Alexander's kingdom ended, his four kings came up, right? Four kings. And the winds of heaven, the war. So they were warring. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great towards the south. Remember I was talking about that Greco-Roman Empire, how you had, it started to have a partnership between Greece and Rome, and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Now, a lot of time, I've heard a lot of people reference those stars to being Israelites, and there were Israelites all throughout Greece, and that goes into the time of Antioch. I get his name tripped up. Antiochus, right? Or some people say Antiochus.
I think it's Antiochus.
Antiochus. And this goes into that part, and this starts kind of alluding into the time period of the Maccabees. He magnified himself even to the prince of hosts, and sacrifice, the sacrifice against the daily sacrifice. Yeah, I'm trying to see at this part where, okay. Then I heard one of the saints speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And this is talking about the brutality that was going under him. So I don't have enough time to keep going, but you get where I'm going. He's going deeper into the prophecies there in Daniel 8. So I don't know. Maybe we might touch a little bit on Daniel 8 again. Well, we kind of skimmed through this. We might touch on Daniel 8 before going into Revelations 1. I don't know. Well, I know we'll definitely go into it. I just don't know how much time we'll spend on it, because there's definitely a lot in this this book. But I tell people, Daniel and Revelations pairs together very nicely because it does the same thing in there. It tells you something overall, and then it comes back and it starts explaining a little bit more. And it comes back again and it explains a little bit more detail. And it comes back again and it explains with more detail. And so I tell people, Revelations, that's it's happening in Revelations also. It's explaining what's happening, and it's kind of giving you almost like the bullet points, the main points, and then it comes back and it's giving you a little bit more and more detail, and then a little bit more detail. So that's how a lot of these prophecies go. I mean, and you'll see the same thing. The only difference that I would say is when you get into, like, say, Jeremiah or Ezekiel, they will focus on particular things that are happening within that same course, because the prophets are all saying the same thing. But one might focus on more that part which we went into in Daniel 7, where it starts talking about how the everlasting salvation and covenant, and how the saints will be made the judges, and when it starts going into that, it goes a little bit more detail. And certain and other prophets where they focus more on that, on the rulership. Then there's other ones where they go more in detail on the plagues and famines and stuff, which you start talking about in the seals and the trumpets and vials. It's just not calling it the seals, trumpets, and vials. But yeah, that's, that said, I will leave it there. And then we'll go into the next lesson next week, provided nothing more immediate happens and we have to switch gears. But anything to say before we get out of here, sir?
No, I'm ready to close this out.
All righty, good stuff then. All right, sign us out, brother.
Kahala Yahweh, Ba'ashem Mashiach Yahushai. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son Yahushai. And with that we say Shalom.
So, call me Yasharallah.